This is your daily briefing for January 3rd. This afternoon, the United States carries out a major military strike in Venezuela, a powerful earthquake shakes central Mexico, and the UN Security Council welcomes 5 new members for 2026. We'll also be answering today's big question: as global public debt hits a historic $100 trillion milestone, are we entering a permanent debt trap? But first, the dramatic escalation in Caracas. 1. The capture of Nicolas Maduro. Today, the geopolitical landscape of South America has been fundamentally altered following a surprise U.S. military operation in Venezuela. The operation, early this morning, a series of explosions rocked the Venezuelan capital of Caracas. Shortly after, President Trump announced on social media that U.S. forces had successfully captured President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores. The aftermath: the Venezuelan government has condemned the act as imperialist aggression and has declared a national state of emergency, calling for a mass mobilization of its defense forces. Global impact: while the U.S. claims the move is a strike against a narco-state, international reactions have been swift and divided. Russia and Iran have labeled the move a violation of sovereignty, while several neighboring Latin American countries have increased border security in anticipation of regional instability. 2. Earthquake hits Mexico. In our second story today, a magnitude 6.5 earthquake has struck southern and central Mexico, causing widespread panic and at least 2 confirmed fatalities. The epicenter, the quake originated near the town of San Marcos in Guerrero, close to the resort city of Acapulco. The impact: tremors were felt as far away as Mexico City, where the seismic alert system gave residents seconds to evacuate. President Claudia Sheinbaum was forced to briefly suspend her daily press conference as the National Palace began to shake. Damage assessment: while major infrastructure remains largely intact, authorities are reporting numerous landslides on highways and structural damage to several hospitals in the Guerrero region. 3. Tensions rise in Iran. In our third story today, we move to the Middle East, where the Iranian government has issued a stern warning to Washington over potential interference in its internal affairs. The threat: following several days of deadly economic protests within Iran, President Trump stated that the U.S. is locked and loaded to intervene if the Iranian government uses lethal force against demonstrators. The response: Tehran has formally written to the UN Security Council, calling Trump's remarks reckless and provocative. Iranian officials have declared that any U.S. intervention would cross a red line, warning that American bases in the region would be considered legitimate targets. 4. The first supermoon of 2026. In our fourth story, stargazers around the world are preparing for the Wolf Moon, the first and brightest supermoon of the year. The phenomenon: because the moon is at its closest point to Earth, known as perigee, it will appear roughly 14% larger and 30% brighter than a typical full moon. Viewing times: the moon reached its technical peak this afternoon, meaning it will be at its most spectacular as it rises this evening across most time zones. 5. Displacement in Ukraine. In our fifth story today, the humanitarian crisis in Eastern Europe continues to deepen as Ukrainian authorities order a mandatory evacuation of families from 2 frontline regions. The order: approximately 3,000 children and their parents are being moved from high-risk zones as Russian forces continue to make incremental advances. The objective: officials state the evacuation is necessary to prevent civilian casualties as the winter fighting intensifies, though the move highlights the ongoing struggle to maintain control over contested territories. 6. New members at the UN Security Council. In our sixth story, 5 new countries have officially taken their seats as non-permanent members of the UN Security Council for the 2026 to 2027 term. The incoming members: Bahrain, Colombia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Liberia, and Latvia, which is serving for the first time in its history, have joined the 15-member body. The mission: the new members held a flag installation ceremony yesterday to mark the start of their 2-year terms. They join existing non-permanent members Pakistan, Denmark, Greece, Panama, and Somalia. Immediate challenges: the new cohort arrives at a moment of extreme tension, as the Council prepares to debate the U.S. intervention in Venezuela and the escalating situation in the Middle East. The $100 trillion debt trap. Finally, we move to a landmark moment for the global economy as total public debt officially hits $100 trillion. The milestone, global public debt, has now reached a level equivalent to roughly 93% of global GDP, the highest level seen since the end of the Second World War. The drivers, economists point to a debt spiral, where major economies, including the US and China, are now borrowing simply to meet interest payments on existing loans. The risk, with interest rates remaining volatile, the IMF warns that 2026 could be a key warning year. Without significant fiscal discipline, the world risks sliding into a debt trap by the end of the decade, leaving governments with little room to respond to future shocks. That's all we have time for on YouTube today.